Hi, this is Jordan with a longer video testing how FSD 10.2 handles roundabouts. Here in the capital of Washington and the surrounding area, there are a lot of roundabouts. If FSD is going to compete with the average driver, it will have to be relatively competent at navigating these circular traps. This is a compilation of short trips going through a few different roundabouts and a very confusing intersection. Like the previous video, I'll speed up the mundane sections and only show the interesting parts, but if you want to see the entire drive, just let me know and I'll upload that separately. This is the first unprotected left of the drive. The car does its normal creeping behavior. There's a sign to the left kind of obstructing the view, but the car turns without much hesitation. Not much really to note here. If there's no cars and the visibility is relatively good, it's pretty easy at this point. And here we're coming up to a 2-lane roundabout, and the car stops right before this crosswalk, and I have to kind of encourage it forward with the accelerator pedal. At this point, I take my foot off to see what it will do, and it kind of just hangs out blocking this first lane, and then immediately crosses over into this left lane. I did take timestamps of all of these incidences and reported them to Tesla directly instead of pressing the button. This is the most congested roundabout and one that the car has never been able to get through without a disengagement. The car does see the gap that opens up right here and decides to go, however immediately promised me to take over. I was able to re-engage autopilot mid-turn, and it does go around a bit, but disengages again just before the exit. If you watch the visualization preview, it looks like it was confused with the oncoming lane, or maybe it just doesn't like 2-laned roundabouts. And lucky for the car, another 2-lane roundabout's coming up. Here the car does not stop ahead of the entrance to the roundabout like it did in the previous two, but instead decides blocking the lane is the best thing to do. And at this point, I push my foot on the accelerator to get it to move, and it does go around and exit correctly. Oh my god, we crossed lanes. I don't know why it does that. It just drives me crazy. And here, instead of going straight through this really confusing intersection, it wants to go on I-5 South. So I intervene here just because I don't want to go on I-5 South and have to turn around. I'm not sure what the error is for this behavior. I have a feeling it has something to do with the data Tesla uses for maps and route planning. Just because vision can't see far enough ahead to properly plan routes, so it has to rely on some historical map data. Welcome to the very confusing intersection. You may notice that we are now on the left side of the divided highway with oncoming traffic on the right side. Must be very odd for FSD. The car does seem to notice this, and as we cross back over onto the right side, it tries to stay to the left, and you can see in the visualization preview that the line was pointing directly into those waiting cars. The button to send these disengagements directly to Tesla is pretty small and hard to press, as you might have noticed in the last video. So instead, I'm just taking the timestamps from the video and sending them directly to Tesla. All of the telemetry and data from the car gets uploaded anyway, but I'm sorry to the intern that will have to match up those timestamps later on. And here we go, finally a 1-lane roundabout. The car handles it like a champ, no hesitation. This SUV decides not to yield, which is okay. The car recognizes it and slows down. I was really curious how the car would react to the station wagon on the right, getting relatively close while trying to merge. Autopilot didn't react at all, very surprising. And this is the final right of the trip. I just placed a pin on Walmart, so we're just gonna turn around and do the route in reverse. Now we're driving out where we just turned in. This was an awkward left turn with the car blocking the lane. The car turning right adjacent to us decides not to stop and probably temporarily obstructs the view of the van. I'm not sure why the car decides just to wait here, not a very good place. If there was more traffic, I'd probably disengage and take over, but I was just curious to see what the car would do. After the van passes and the coast is clear, the car proceeds normally, and even completes the same roundabout. I think it just loves one-lane roundabouts. No hesitation. I don't think it even pressed the brake. Going back to the data Tesla uses for maps and routing, at this upcoming intersection, they recently changed the flow of traffic, and the car wants to be in this right lane, even though you can't turn left from this lane. So I do disengage just because I don't want to turn around. But the sign on the ground is very obvious. It's just interesting that Tesla Vision doesn't rely on that yet. I don't know why multiple lanes turning left trips up the car so much. I do disengage to prevent the car from continuing straight. It's quite uncomfortable when the car quickly turns the wheel in the opposite direction of the way we're supposed to be going. Now we're crossing back over the really confusing intersection. The car signals to move into the right lane. Partially my fault for canceling that request because I didn't see that the map planner had routed us a different way. It does fight me again and I disengaged. Was able to re-engage, and impressively enough, it did move over to the right turn lane in time to make the turn. And here we're coming up to a 2-lane roundabout, and it doesn't even hesitate. I don't understand why sometimes it can do it perfectly and sometimes it just fails. And here we're coming up on another 2-lane roundabout. A bit of hesitation stopping before the actual entrance of the roundabout, but once it figures out it's clear, it takes the third exit without any issues. Quite impressive. I wish every roundabout performance was like this. We're essentially back to where we started, so we're just going to turn around and do this all again. And we're back to the same roundabout that we had in the beginning of the video. A bit more cars going through the intersection. The car is well back behind the crosswalk. There is a gap and we decide to go, and again, just like the first time, we cross over into the left lane. I really hope this gets fixed in a future version of FSD. This time, while we're approaching the busy roundabout, there is a gap and the car decides to go for it, but quickly disengages when it can't figure out which direction it needs to go. Also, did you see how fast the steering wheel turns left and right when it freaks out like that? Like, it's unnerving to try to control that. It almost reminds me of those driving games at like Dave & Buster's, except this is the real world and this is a $60,000 car. Equally fun though, just a little bit more responsibility. All joking aside, we're coming up on, you guessed it, another roundabout. This time there was a gap and the car actually made it through without any issues. I spoke too soon. It again wants to just cross over on that solid line. And again, it wants to go on I-5 South. Disengaged again, re-engaged, and guess what? It wants to go back on I-5 South. I turned off the blinker this time and it decides to stay in the lane that I want it to be in. Nothing really new going back through this really confusing intersection. The car does again try to stop at this light overhead that's meant for another lane. And this time there is a red Mercedes-Benz who is tailing me like no other. I think the car actually performs better when there's other cars preventing it from going into the wrong places. Like, instead of going head on to those cars, it actually stays in the correct lane and then moves over to the right turn lane without any issues. At this point, the red Mercedes-Benz is fed up with me because I'm driving too slow. This moment only makes it worse when I slow down a bit to let that 4Runner out of the gas station. I think I need to buy those student driver signs, or this car drives the speed limit, or this car is driving by itself, and that'll probably help. I do increase my speed a little bit just to create some separation, although it does not work and he's still tailing me like no other. Thankfully, there's no cars in this roundabout. The car enters without any hesitation. probably turns a little bit slower because it knows it'll piss off the Mercedes-Benz. Personally, I'm okay with that. We exit without any issues and move into the right turn lane to turn into Walmart. There goes the Mercedes-Benz, who immediately has to slow down because a car turned out in front of him. Karma. And that's pretty much it for this drive. I don't want to see another roundabout, at least for the rest of the day. Thank you guys for watching. If there's a specific area around Olympia that might be interesting to film how FSD reacts, just let me know, and I'll do my best to make it happen.